We are conditioned to accept a simple, unwavering truth about our past. We are told that the further back in time you go, the shorter, harder, and more brutal human life becomes. We are fed the image of the ancient human as a hunched, broken creature, riddled with parasites, teeth rotting, joints inflamed, lucky to survive past the age of 30. We are taught that longevity is a modern invention, a gift bestowed upon us by antibiotics, complex surgery, and the Industrial Revolution. We believe we are the biological peak of our species. But if this narrative is true, then archaeology has a problem. A very quiet, very disturbing problem. Because the deeper we dig, the more we find evidence that contradicts the official curve of progress. We are finding skeletons from deep prehistory that do not look like the remains of desperate survivors. We are finding bodies that show no signs of the chronic degradation we associate with aging. We are finding evidence of a time when the human machine functioned differently. What if there was an epoch, a lost chapter in our biological history, where human beings lived not just differently, but physiologically better? What if longevity was not invented by science, but lost by civilization? The history of human life expectancy is usually presented as a straight line ascending upward. More technology equals longer life. Less technology equals early death. But when anthropologists began to conduct mass analyses of skeletal remains from the pre-agricultural and early Neolithic periods, that line began to fracture. It does not go straight down. In specific regions and specific eras, the data spikes. We see pockets of populations with shockingly low infant mortality rates. We see cemeteries with a high density of fully mature elderly adults. But most importantly, we see a total absence of the degenerative diseases that plague modern society. These are not isolated anomalies. They are patterns. They are data points that refuse to fit into the script of the nasty, brutish, and short life. In the modern world, age is a scar. It is easily read on the body. You can look at a modern skeleton and see the history of its pain, the wear on the knees, the microfractures in the spine, the inflammation tracks on the bone surface. We accept this as the inevitable price of time. But in certain pre-ceramic excavation sites, the bones tell a different story. We find individuals who died at a biological age equivalent to 60, 70, or perhaps even older, but their bones do not look old. They display a bone density that rivals a modern athlete in their prime. Their joints show minimal wear, smooth and uneroded by arthritis. Their spinal columns are straight, uncompressed by the burden of constant crushing labor. And perhaps most shockingly, their teeth. In a world before dentists, before fluoride, before hygiene, their dental structures are often flawless. No cavities, no crowding, no decay. These are not the bodies of people who are scraping by on the edge of starvation. These are the bodies of people whose organisms were not fighting a constant war against their own environment. They were not simply surviving, they were thriving in a state of biological equilibrium that we have forgotten is possible. One of the darkest indicators of the ancient world is supposed to be infant mortality. We are told that half of all children died. But in these specific anomalies, the archaeological record falls silent. We find strangely few child burials. Skeptics argued that perhaps children were buried separately or their small bones dissolved. But as our forensic methods improve, that excuse fades. The lack of child graves suggests something profound. It suggests that in this forgotten epoch, children survived. It implies a nutritional stability we cannot comprehend. It implies an environment free from the dense viral loads of later cities. It implies a society without the crushing levels of cortisol and stress that weaken the immune system of the mother and the fetus. This was not life on the edge. This was life in the center of the zone of adaptation. We are also forced to reevaluate their minds. We tend to view ancient medicine as a mix of superstition and crude butchery. But the body does not lie. and the bones show evidence of a lost somatic science. We find femurs, the largest bone in the body, that have been snapped and healed with such perfect alignment that the person walked without a limp for decades afterward. We find skulls with trepanation holes, evidence of complex brain surgery where the bone regrowth proves the patient lived for years after the procedure. This is not possible with primitive methods. This requires a fundamental understanding of sepsis. It requires a knowledge of anatomy and the body's regenerative cycles that rivals our own. This was not shamanism. This was a practical, lost medical tradition that focused on the body's ability to heal itself, a knowledge that was not written in books, but passed down through hands. Then, there is the nutrition paradox. The official version of history states that the invention of agriculture was the savior of humanity. It gave us reliable food. It allowed us to expand. But the skeletal record suggests that agriculture was a biological disaster. The moment humans switch to mass agriculture, the skeletons shrink. The average height drops by several inches. The bones become brittle. Anemia appears in the marrow. Dental rot explodes as sugar and carbohydrates replace a complex diet. We traded quality of life for quantity of food. But before this transition, in that forgotten window of time, humans ate a diet of immense variety. They moved in patterns that the human body was designed for, not repetitive, back-breaking labor in a field, but dynamic, functional movement across a landscape. They did not live in a state of constant biological compromise. Progress made life more convenient. It made food more abundant, but it did not make us healthier. It broke the machine. Modern biology is increasingly identifying stress as the primary accelerator of aging. Hormonal fatigue, immune system exhaustion, systemic inflammation. We are burning ourselves out from the inside. Now, look at those ancient skeletons again. Look for the markers of chronic stress. In many of these populations, they are missing. We do not see the defensive wounds associated with mass violence. We do not see the skeletal deformation associated with slavery or rigid class hierarchy. We do not see the signs of infectious plagues that breed in overcrowded cities. This hints at a model of existence that was socially and psychologically sustainable, a life without the constant low-level panic that defines the modern condition. They lived in a world where the threat was immediate, a predator, a storm. But once the threat passed, the stress ended. They did not carry the weight of the future on their shoulders. So why did this epoch vanish? If there was a golden age of longevity and health, why did it end? The answer is likely frighteningly simple. The world changed. The climate became unstable. The lush territories dried up. The herds moved. The waters rose. The stability that allowed for this biological optimization collapsed. Humanity was forced to adapt. We moved from a strategy of quality to a strategy of quantity. We developed agriculture not because it was better, but because we were desperate. We built walls and hierarchies not because we wanted to, but because we had to compete for shrinking resources. We traded our health for security. We traded our longevity for the ability to sustain massive populations. We became more efficient as a species, but we broke the individual. The most dangerous conclusion of this investigation is not that the past was better. Nostalgia is useless. The dangerous conclusion is that longevity and health are not guaranteed results of technological progress. They are states of being that can be lost. We assume that we are moving toward a Star Trek future where we will live forever, but the bones of our ancestors warn us that we might be moving in the opposite direction. We have replaced the dangers of the wild with the dangers of our own lifestyle. We have replaced predators with cancer, heart disease, and stress. If in the deep past humans lived longer not because of pills or machines, but because of their integration with the environment and their social structure, then we are in trouble, because those are the two things we have destroyed. History teaches us pride. It tells us we are the masters of the earth, but archaeology teaches us doubt. And if in the silence between the Ice Age and the first empires, there existed a time when human beings walked this earth tall, healthy, and enduring, then the question is not, why did they disappear? The question is much more personal. Why do we convince ourselves that we are the pinnacle of evolution, when the very bones in the ground suggest that physically, biologically, and perhaps even spiritually, we are a shadow of what we used to be? We have conquered the world, but in the process, we may have defeated ourselves.